Hi, my name is James Andrella, and you're listening to the Back to Human podcast. On today's episode, I am joined by Jennifer Linton, aka Jenny, and this is going to be another carnivore episode. I know that I've had quite a few ladies on here discussing carnivore. I think it's fascinating just to learn how carnivore can be adapted to women as well. When I was researching keto years and years ago, I fell into some research that stated that women needed to do carb cycling in order to support their hormones. So you would need to be eating certain amount of carbohydrates, or there'd be certain fasting protocols that would be a little bit more advantageous during certain periods of your phases. But with carnivore, that doesn't really seem to be the case. And I'm really interested to learn about Jenny's story today, as I've learned that she's overcome some health issues herself, as many in the carnivore community has, seeming as there has been this whole wave lately and carnivore is really trending. So let's get into this without further ado. Jenny, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me here today. I'll give you a quick, it's been a long story, so I'll give you the Coles notes on my journey. You want to know the pre leading up to carnivore end of things?
Of course, I want to know pretty
Yeah.
much,
Jenny's story.
go as far back as you can, how you grew up,
Oh goodness.
uh, how you fell into carnivore, and what you tried out before, because I know that you had quite the transformation. It seems like you
Yeah.
pretty much went through the rigmarole. You were trying this, that, and nothing seemed to stick, but
Yeah.
this seems to have worked for you.
It does. Yeah. So I actually recently found out I was a carnivore baby. It was not something that I was aware of. So my parents are Eastern European. I was breastfed until I was two, solely breastfed. I was not introduced to any type of foods until after that. My mom breastfed me every 2 hours for the first 2 years of my life. Very interesting introduction to life there. But when I started eating foods, I recently discovered that my mom was just blending up meats and giving me egg yolks and meat. And that was pretty common for us culturally. I did not know that until I became a carnivore, but it makes a lot of sense now. I was raised in a really traditional home with a homemaker for a mom. So we were definitely not a fast food family. We were a cook everything in the home family, very meat and potatoes upbringing. So I wasn't really exposed to pastas or rices. Things like that didn't really come into my life until I was probably in my 20s, to be forthcoming. Um, so I had a very healthy childhood. I was an advanced kid. I was always pretty bright, did really well in school. I never had a propensity towards desserts or carbs. I think probably because I wasn't really introduced to them. But when I was 16, I lost my dad in a car accident. And obviously, you face some cortisol issues with that. And I think that spun my system out a little bit. And I developed
Mhm.
hypothyroidism along with a few other gut health issues. Everything went pretty undiagnosed, but I went to see doctors, but they just kind of were saying it's stress, it's stress, it's stress. I got stuck on the Synthroid. Interestingly, it was hypothyroid despite being fairly small. But every woman in my family has hypothyroid, so it's the genetic precursor, right? So that's what I was told. It's genetics. You're going to have it. Here's your medication. Have a nice day. Off you go. So I was generally okay until I was in my 20s when I started working in the restaurant industry. And I put in almost 2 decades of that. During that time, obviously, my sleep cycle was completely destroyed. Like everybody else in the industry, I drank too much, I partied too much, I wouldn't eat at all, or I would eat the most disgusting food on the face of the planet, like whatever the chef would feed me. So I would stay alive, I would consume. Then you get the late night McDonald's run, all of those terrible habits that you just sort of pick up from being around the wrong people. But during that period of time, I did try and find health. So about 12 years ago in 2013, I was pretty far into the industry at that point, but I was introduced to the Whole 30 by a friend of mine who's a personal trainer, who at the time didn't have extensive knowledge of nutrition, but sort of, as you mentioned in the beginning, we were talking about carb cycling for women, and we were starting to get into that space. I was already pretty into fitness. I was definitely carb cycling at the time. And
Mhm.
I thought, I got to try something because I was just inflamed. And I couldn't figure out really what the issue was. I don't even think I could say I felt any specific way, but I just was poofy. My joints hurt. I was kind of headachy, and it just didn't feel well. And so I did the whole 30, and that was my intro to health. And I thought it was the greatest thing that ever existed on the face of the planet, because probably it's the first time in years that I wasn't just drinking and eating restaurant trash. So I actually did see some pretty good benefits out of that. But after that 30 days, I went right back to what I was doing.
Hmm.
And so I did go off alcohol for that 30 days, but external of that, it wasn't really transformational for me. Through the years from that, I did cycle in and out. I went vegan, broad juicing vegan at one point in time. So I was juicing everything I consumed. I was consuming solely in liquid form. I was a vegetarian for a while. The veganism made me so frail and ill. I thought, I'll just go vegetarian, that'll help. And
Mm.
so I did that for a while. Um, and then in 2018, I quit restaurants and I went to work in municipal politics, which is a really weird shift. But you think that taking a day job is going to be the health thing, right? And you're going to be better.
Yeah.
I'm not going to work in restaurants anymore. I'm going to be healthy. But it was as toxic of an environment as restaurants were. And my thyroid health skewed right off the charts. And I gained 45 pounds in 3 months. I had always, when I left restaurants, to give you some context, I'm about 5'7". When I left restaurants, I was 92 pounds. I was
Oh,
a
wow.
thin girl when I left restaurants. Very jacked from lifting kegs and lifting chairs and being on my feet doing steps all day long, but I was frail. I was a vegetarian. I was thin. I was drinking too much, blah, blah, blah. So I transitioned into politics, and then bam, 3 months, 45 pounds. And I'm like, what is happening to my body? And then everybody just says, well, you're getting older, women's health, right? You're a woman, you're getting older. This is what happens. And I'm saying, this isn't what happens. Something's wrong. Something's wrong with my body. No, no, no. And then I start getting migraines. And then I start getting adult acne. And I had never had acne in my life. And then I start getting eczema. And then my hair starts falling out in clumps to the point that I have bald spots on my head. And I can't get the weight to move. My partner's a personal trainer. My fitness was in line. Couldn't get it. Couldn't get anything better. And things just kept getting worse and worse. More medication for the thyroid, more medication for the migraines, more medication, more tests, more tests. But nobody's ever giving me a definitive answer. So I go through a few different jobs, and through that period of time, I get the weight down, but the inflammation's still really bad. So I'm still having like joint pain. I'm a snowboarder. My knees are hurting.
Mm.
Everything's just not, for as athletic as I was, everything wasn't right. So I go paleo. I take on a 75 hard. That's where it started at the beginning of the pandemic. 75 hard. I go paleo. And for the first time, I start to feel pretty good. And so that was great. But then I realized I'm having this really extensive bloating, to the point that I'm starting to be asked if I'm pregnant all of the time.
Mm.
So not like one or two people guessing. Frequently, people are now asking, how far along are you? And I've got my thin body back, but my stomach is so distended, I can barely wear pants. I can't do
Wow.
up any pants. I can wear yoga pants. I couldn't do up pants.
And this is
So
on paleo.
this is on paleo. So then I come off paleo, and I'm like just looking for solutions, right? And then I kind of end up I do another 75 hard. I come on keto, and keto helps. Keto does give me some relief, probably for the first time, actual relief, but I've still got this severe pain in my gut. Cannot figure it out. Finally, I end up going through a naturopath, going through an osteopath, going through my doctor, a year's worth of antibiotics. I went on the elemental diet through the naturopath, which is essentially what they give you through the feeding tube. So it's this powder you mix with liquid, and that's all you consume.
Mm.
But I was allowed to eat meat. And so I asked her, like, how come meat? And she said, well, it's the only thing that doesn't cause any issues with the gut health. It digests, it goes through, it's fine. Plants ferment. And it didn't click, I will say. It didn't quite click for me, but I did feel better. I chalked it up to the elemental diet. But I discovered during that time I also had small intestine bacterial overgrowth as well. So I had SIBO and diverticulitis, which are often partnered. I had methane specific SIBO. And so I go and I get a colonoscopy and a number of ultrasounds and x-rays, and they finally find out I have pretty significant diverticulitis. And so then at this point, the only other solution really is like get a stoma or a sigmoidectomy. So like your colon doesn't work. We're going to take out a chunk of your colon. Have a nice day.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know if you know of Kent Carnivore, but we came across Kent Carnivore. Not, I wasn't really in the carnivore space at the time, but understanding, hey, there's this guy who's had his colon removed and he's getting better. So we're standing in our kitchen, my boyfriend and I, one day, and I see him looking at the 75 hard thing. And I said, are you doing another 75 hard? And he said, yeah, tomorrow I'm going to start. I said, whatever, I'll do it with you. This is at the beginning of 2024. I said, what diet are you doing? He said, carnivore. I said, you're insane. Why would you eat meat? What's wrong with you? You got to eat other things. You have to eat the rainbow. You need your carbs. What are you talking about? And he said, whatever, just do meat based then. It's fine. But I'm lazy and I didn't want to cook two different meals. And so I end up being a carnivore by accident, not knowing anything about it. He does 6 months worth of research. I don't do any research. I just do it, right? I go in and literally within weeks, like my stomach is flat for the first time in years. And I'm saying, like, I don't have any pain. And I was walking around with 10 out of 10 pain. Like, as a heavily tattooed person, when I say that I'm in pain, I
Mhm.
mean, I was in pain. I was suffering. Um, and I thought, okay, maybe there's something to this. And so I silently, quietly just start looking into it, right? You start researching Dr. Baker. I came across Dr. Palladino or Salandino. I came across Bella. I came across everybody, right? Dr. Shafee, and I start really digging in. And I stayed with it, obviously, after the 75 hard. And it did take me probably, I'd say 5 months, maybe 6 months to really get the inflammation out of my body. I also oxalate dumped for quite a period of time, like probably 6, 7 months. So I dealt with that as well. But I just stuck with it. I wish I had known what I know now. I would have been able to help myself significantly more during that transition. But I am a grit or glory kind of person. And so, like, I grit my teeth and I said, I'm doing this. Like, this is going to make me better. And I can very proudly say I'm going on 2 years in a few months. And I am free from I've been off thyroid medication for a year and a bit. I no longer take any medications for anything. I have not had a migraine since I started. My eczema is fine as long as I don't intake a whole bunch of dairy. Just all of these things that you start to realize you didn't even realize, like bleeding gums, gone,
Mhm.
right? No matter how much I brushed my teeth or flossed my teeth before, now all of a sudden, I just regular tooth maintenance and my teeth are fine.
Mhm.
All of these things that you just didn't really realize were even wrong with you. And all of a sudden you're realizing I live well. I'm okay. And that's probably like the long journey of how I got here. But that is I am now a pretty devout carnivore and
Mhm.
obviously devoting my life to educating others in this space now. So it's been an interesting switch. That wasn't where I saw my coaching going, but that's
You're
how
here.
these things happen, right? I'm here. I'm
Yeah.
here.
You touched on a lot of different points that kind of resonated with me and maybe not right away came up during my journey, but definitely during my past. One thing that you mentioned was your gut health and how plants ferment. So probably 8 years ago now, I came across a naturopath myself, and she she's the one that really put me onto diving into nutrition because her daughter was diagnosed with autism after an injection when she was younger.
Hmm.
I won't say the word on here just because that tends to get censored, but she was able to introduce foods like certain diets to her daughter that helped her actually learn better.
Hmm.
and she's a fully functioning on the spectrum adult now. She's able to live on her own, which doctors in the past told her that that wouldn't happen. But anyway, she mentioned that people think it's normal to fart.
Hmm.
And if you're farting, if you're passing gas, if you're burping all the time, this means that food is literally fermenting in your gut. It's not normal. People may think it's funny, but since going carnivore, and I tell my wife this all the time, I don't fart. Like I
I know.
literally don't. Maybe when I'm actually going to the bathroom, and it may sound disgusting, people don't want to
Yeah,
hear this, but
it's the fact though.
yeah. But
It's
meanwhile, people online are like, oh, I can only imagine how your poop smells or something like that,
oh
or you gotta be
yeah,
passing gas so much from eating dead carcass. And
but
then
people think
also
that meat ferments in the colon, right? But the
Kent
misconception.
was the Kent was the gentleman that had his colon removed, as you stated,
Hmm.
and then he has a bag as well,
Hmm.
right? So he could
Hmm.
see that the food was actually
That's
digesting.
correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did come across him before.
Yeah, he's a very interesting case in the space for sure.
What was interesting to me is also how when you were working in the restaurants or the bars, how you were pretty underweight for your
Hmm.
size, even
Hmm.
though you were still eating the junk food. So I've
Hmm.
come across some people like this as well. They could eat whatever it is, but they can't put on an ounce of weight. What do you think that's due to? Is that just due to like circadian rhythm?
I mean, I definitely have great genetics for that. My mom's like 104 pounds soaking wet.
Mm,
Both of my parents, as I said, my dad's passed away, but it was an accident. It wasn't health related. Both of my parents were super, super fit people. So fitness was never a struggle for me, even when I lived a really unhealthy life. But it is something I talk about extensively now, and I do work quite a lot in the eating disorder space, because we can perceive ourselves as thin. Um, People would have looked at me and went, wow, she's so healthy. But the damage to my organs and likely the internal fat that was happening inside of my body was completely the opposite of what I looked like on the outside.
mm,
Sadly, we know we live in a society, especially for women, that equates thinness with health or thinness with beauty. There is nothing beautiful about a 92-pound, 5'7" woman. That's not a beautiful aspect of health. But I think a lot of it was stress for me, to be honest. So when I get very high, and I've unfortunately been exposed to a number of like high impact events in my life that have caused some adrenal fatigue for me. But I would say for me, when I am in a high stress situation, weight just right off. So it was, don't think I would literally work 30 days straight and take one day off and then work another 35 days straight and take one day off. I didn't take a vacation for 7 or 8 years straight. So I just literally think even though the food I was eating was terrible, I was really under eating, definitely. And even though I was hypothyroid, I think my cortisol levels were like those two things were battling. And I think my cortisol levels were just keeping me from gaining that external weight. And then when I went to the political job and I sat down and I stopped moving and I started eating regularly, and my body kind of started to balance a little bit, at least from that heightened state of fight or flight, weight right on.
mhm.
And I had never gained weight like that in my life. It was very shocking for me.
Mm.
But all of the parts of our journey make us better at helping other people on there. So I have no regrets about that. I made it through the other side.
So I didn't know that you work with people that have had eating disorders in the past. Do you try to introduce them to carnivore? What are you met with typically?
Um, well, I think pretty consistently the two biggest things are that people don't want to feel full, and their concern is that meat makes them feel full, because oftentimes we equate fullness to weight gain. And then the old addendum of fat makes you fat, right? So there's a lot of education that comes from that. There's a lot of work. I work in the keto through carnivore space. So I'm a big proponent of meeting your clients where they're at. I would love everybody in the world to be a full-blown carnivore, but not everybody's there. So I meet my clients where they're at, but I spend a lot of time. I'm a certified life coach as well, so I do a lot of work in that habit building mindset space with people. So I think oftentimes when we do that work, we're working a lot first on mindset and then later on nutrition. So we need to get our minds healthy, and then we need to work on getting our bodies healthy and understanding that mind body connection. But there's a ton of education that has to go into that, and a lot of coaching that needs to go
Yeah.
into that space for sure.
I imagine you have to be very, very patient because that could be a slippery slope. You say the wrong thing and then
Yeah.
it kind of just sends them into I guess, a
My
relapse
background
of the
is like
behaviors.
my education in psychology, so 2 degrees in psychology, a diploma in professional counseling, and a BA in psych. So I definitely rely on CBT a lot to help people in that space too. So I'm sort of holistic in my services. I'm not just one or the other. It has to be malleable. It has to be very malleable services in that space for sure.
I mean, I think you have to be in order to actually be a good coach, you have to address
Yeah.
all the things because it's not just the physical components, not just the nutritional.
Yeah.
As you saw how stressed you were in that environment, there's a quote that I love that says you can't get healthy or you can't heal in the same environment that you got sick in. So
100%.
removing yourself from the restaurants, from the bar life, you're in an entirely different environment. You're going to be a whole different person. So
Yeah.
you have to address those factors in order to have an actual successful transformation. As you saw with like the whole 30, sure you can
Yep.
do it, but then you just go back to the same old habits. So it's not really
Yeah.
addressing the true
Yeah.
issues at hand.
And so I've never been a fan of challenges. And I mean, we can touch on my 30-day line challenge in a minute, but I've never been a big fan of like the word challenge. And I do talk about this in my content, is because I think oftentimes people will take it on with the mindset of like, I'm stopping at the end of 30 days. So I've been part of the 75 Hard official group on Facebook for a number of years. I've completed it 5 times, including the Live Hard program, without fail. And the biggest thing I hear people talk about is like, what am I going to drink on day 76? What's my cheat
Mm,
meal going to be on day 76? And if you're going into something that's supposed to help you better yourself in your discipline and your mindset and whatever it is that you're trying to tackle, but you go into it with the mindset of, I can't wait for it to be done, you're not changing your habit. All you're doing is just seeing if you're
mhm.
able to hold yourself accountable for 30 days. Um, and so I think there's better ways to go about habit building than that. I think if you're a disciplined person, then sure, a challenge is great. I will challenge anyone in my space to anything, anytime, and I will hold up to a challenge anyone challenges me to. But I know myself and I know my own discipline, so
Mhm.
I'm cautious with that with clients for sure, and in my content as well.
I would always imagine that just taking out those inflammatory foods and such on the whole 30 challenges, the 30-day carnivore or lion challenge, that people would feel so amazing that they wouldn't possibly be able to go back. But I've seen it time and time again where if there isn't that intention, if the mindset isn't correct, if you're going into it for the wrong reasons, then it's almost like why do it in the first place? Maybe some people will catch on, they'll see such a difference, but
Yeah, I think that's a big value in why you work with a coach, right? Is, as I said in the beginning, had I known what I know now, I would have made my own first 30 days a lot better.
mhm,
I think a lot of people go into it without knowledge. Not everybody I recognize is a grin and bear it person. I think oftentimes we're so conditioned to comfort in our society that the second we feel uncomfortable, people want to deter away from that. Some of us will lean in, some of us are a run towards the fire kind of people, but I think oftentimes we'll see people tackle, let's say, carnivore for 30 days and they don't do any of the awareness, and so they don't realize that they're eating too little, or they're not getting enough fat, or they're not getting enough electrolytes, and all of that keto flu that they're suffering from makes them just go, forget this, I don't feel comfortable, I'm going right back to my chips, they made me feel happy, I like my dopamine hit, have a nice day.
mhm.
So I think that's also part of the reason that we see people fail off of challenges, is just, they just didn't come prepared.
Yeah, they're not guided properly because
Yeah.
that's definitely a major hurdle. The keto flu, you'd expect that, okay, I'm changing and doing these healthy lifestyle changes, but meanwhile, 4 days into it, I feel like I got hit by a train.
Yeah.
Nah, it's not for me. There's something wrong with this, but yeah,
Yeah.
you definitely need some guidance. You need some coaching.
Yeah.
So you noticed when you transitioned to carnivore that you were no longer bloated. I would imagine no longer puffy because you're not retaining the sodium nearly as much. And something that I also noticed too, you mentioned the teeth. I would supplement with vitamin C before, and my gums would bleed whenever I would have carbohydrates, blueberries, a little bit of raw honey, whatever it may be. But the moment that I cut all that stuff out, no more bleeding gums, no teeth issues at all. I didn't really have any cavities or anything like that before
No, me
because
either.
I've been keto for a while, but yeah. So did you experience any hurdles when you were transitioning into carnivore?
Oh yeah, I had a rough time.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely had a rough time. As I said, I had been so many diets, I think had been my problem. I wasn't like yourself where I had been keto for a period of time going into it, right? I'd been sad diet and then whole 30 and then sad diet and then vegan and then sad diet and then vegetarian, sad diet, paleo. Like I was just yo-yoing all over the map with good intentions of trying to get better, but I was doing exactly what I just said I see clients do all the time. It's I feel terrible and I'm just going to go back to the food that makes me not feel terrible. I don't care if I'm bloated. At least I don't feel like I'm going to throw up every day or whatever. Um, when I went carnivore, I definitely did not consume enough fat or electrolytes um, at all. And so I was definitely imbalanced. I need a really high fat. Like I got to be at like 75% fat in my diet. I find that for women anyways, generally depending, but women often require higher fat. And I was probably eating like, I thought I was eating high fat because I'm eating the fat on my meat, but I was still eating a ton of white meat. I was still eating a lot of fish. And so I had pretty bad headaches. I was really moody. I was super crampy. My stomach was all over the map. Like it was from constipation to diarrhea, like one day to the next. You never knew where it was going to be. My stomach hurt. I was insomnia. I had insomnia. Um, as I started, interestingly, as I started oxalate dumping, I was getting like pains in my fingertips. As we know now, oxalates will push out right through the skin. So I was getting like fingertip pain. I got this weird cystic acne that I had never
Mm.
had. So it was all, but I understood. I think the important thing for me was like, I understood that was my body trying to push out all of the bad that I had put in it. I got it. I understood what was happening. Um, I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't have that knowledge or education yet, but I grasped that if my stomach hurts or I'm getting diarrhea or I'm getting constipation or I'm getting headaches, it's probably because like my stomach acid's really imbalanced or my bile is really imbalanced. But I knew my gut health was terrible. So I just stuck with it. But I probably had a rough like full 4 weeks before it started to get better. Even though some things got better, like the bloating started to go down, some things got better, and I saw the changes, there was still suffering for me, for sure.
So what do you eat in a day to hit that 75-ish percent mark of fat? And like what does a high fat day look for you then?
I do cycle now. Like I'll do high protein on the weekends, but a high fat day for me is like I eat a ton of butter. I've become one of those people now that's like eating butter off the thing. It's just, you point out everybody online saying they're crazy and then you become that person, but here we are. I'm that person now. So I put butter on everything. I get as high fat mince as I can. I don't know why off all of my Australian and UK friends I call ground beef mince now, but here we are. I call it ground beef mince. I eat really, really fatty red meat all the time. I very, very rarely eat white meat, fish or seafood. I will eat it. It's not common for me. So I eat at least 2 or 3 steaks a day. I'll eat a pound of ground beef. I am a family of four when it comes to ground beef.
Mm.
I will eat that whole pack myself. I don't eat, you know what, after my 30-day lion diet challenge, haven't had eggs. I haven't gone back to eggs. Um, so it's just mostly butter and red meat is where I'm at in my diet now.
And you're
Tons of
beyond
butter and
30
red meat.
days for the challenge now. Where you at?
Oh, I don't even know. I lost I lost count. I probably had day 45. I don't know. I just kind of stayed that way. It was
Mm.
feeling really, really great. I just challenged some friends to see if anybody wanted to step in and do lion diet plus butter. So I called it the beef saltwater butter challenge. Um, and a couple people took me up on it, and we went through, and it was very interesting to see international people eating different things. My friend Jonathan in Norway was eating like whale meat. People were
Mm.
eating all kinds of things, right? for me, it was basically just bison, beef, and lamb. But yeah, it just you think you feel optimal in carnivore, and then you hone in, and you're like, wow, I feel even more optimal. Like I became an apex predator. I just
Mhm.
stuck with it. So I don't even know what day I'm on now. Day
I
something.
find that I definitely gravitate towards red meat myself, and butter has been an absolute staple. Like I go
Hmm.
through way too much butter. Same as you. I
Yeah,
make these things called chaffle, so I'm still doing eggs and I
love the
still do
truffle.
some raw dairy.
Yeah,
It's I think I got it from Bella. Probably got it from Bella or one of the carnivore communities. It's just eggs with shredded cheese. You mix it up so it's like a pancake
yeah,
consistency, and then you throw it in a waffle maker, and then I
yeah.
load that up with butter and I down it.
I was eating a ton of truffles for a period of time for
Okay,
sure.
okay.
Yeah. I think I have a
Cool.
video on making truffles somewhere on my page. I'm pretty sure.
hmm Yeah, it's a daily staple for me. What did the oxalate dumping look like for you? Did you see actual crystals coming out?
I didn't, but I could feel them. It was very odd. I don't know if you've ever had glass in your skin, but it feels like a very, or like a hair in your skin. You just keep touching it, and it's sharp and painful. But there's nothing for me. There's nothing there. Although I'm sure if I looked under a microscope, there would have been. But for me, visually, there wasn't. But it was sort of my fingertips and a little bit on the base of my feet. Uh, and it was weird.
Do you feel like your stint with veganism and vegetarianism contributed to that, or you think
Oh
it's
yeah.
just years and years of
No, I definitely would say my veganism and vegetarianism contributed to that. Even during my Whole30 and paleo and keto, I was really vegetable heavy. I loved vegetables as a kid. And so I would eat and I loved green vegetables. So I was eating like a ton of asparagus, I was even eating kale, I was eating a ton of spinach. So those really high oxalate vegetables, I was eating a lot of those. So I wasn't even on the like celery and zucchini and sweet potato. I was putting back the hard on you stuff all the time, every day, 4 years.
I wanted to touch on, I meant to say this in the beginning, but shout out to your mom. Like 2 hours breastfeeding for 2 years straight. That's
My mom's a boss.
absolutely insane with no introduction to other foods.
You know what
So
I'll tell
shout out to
you?
mom.
As I said, my mom's a thin woman, and I think that my mom just really liked having the chest associated with breastfeeding a baby. So I think she did it a little bit for her own vanity as well. But I'll give a bigger shout out to my mom, and this is a bit of a cool carnivore story. So my mom is 75, almost 76, and she's got osteoporosis through her entire body and pretty bad arthritis. She was a hairstylist for years, standing in stiletto heels, cutting hair. So she's got like 10 out of 10 pain in her feet. She was falling down at one point. Her feet were so bad. And so I said to her in November of last year, I want you to go 30 days of carnivore. And she said to me what I said in the beginning, you're crazy. I'm not doing that. I said, okay, let's do 6 weeks of keto. See how you feel. Okay. So she took on 6 weeks of keto, including through Christmas, which was like a big, my mom is like the world's, she's like Martha Stewart, like cooking and caring for people is my mom's thing. And she said to me on Christmas Eve, okay, fine, January, I'm going to do carnivore for a month. And she did. And that woman transitioned into carnivore without a blink of an eye, no problem whatsoever. And her foot pain went from, she said, in one foot, 10 out of 10, down to a 2, and in the other foot, down to a 1. And she was having no more pain in her body. She was not taking afternoon naps. My mom's a very active, like strong woman. She'll carry a 50-pound bag of mulch through to the backyard to do her gardening. She's very Eastern European. Um, but she said it was like super transformational for her. And she would recommend, she said, if she can do it, anyone can do it because she's an old lady in her opinion. And I think it was a really cool thing to see her take that on for 30 days. She's keto now. She went back to keto, but only because of her love of cooking. And she says meat is not fancy enough for her, but it was a pretty cool, that was like probably one of my bigger success stories in my coaching space for sure, is getting my mom to go carnivore for 30 days.
That's awesome. And I love sharing these stories because I hope, anyways, that people can kind of pick up on some of these symptoms that many of the guests have been experiencing. It's like, oh, wow, I've been dealing with that myself, but I never thought that it could be due to vegetables or fruits
Hmm.
or bread, pastas, things like that. Would you say overall it's just a issue with blood sugar dysregulation, or is it the oxalates, the other anti-nutrients that's in the plant foods that contribute to these, and it just like sends it out wherever the body's going to, like the weakest link in the body?
I think it definitely is the weakest link in the body, but I mean, I'll quote Dr. Shafee, right? Plants are trying to kill you. They don't want to be eaten. So when you're consuming something that has no natural defense mechanism to be able to run away, we know that they contain carcinogens. We know that they contain anti-nutrients. We know that they contain oxalates. We know this through and through and through. We know they ferment in your gut. I think again, a lot of people will say to us, I'm sure you face this as well. Oh, this person has to be carnivore because they were so sick. And I always say, like, illness brings you to carnivore, but wellness keeps you there.
Mhm.
And to me, it's everybody in society doesn't feel good. They just don't realize it because they're so normalized. Like, that's their baseline. And when your baseline is a 5 and you think it's a 10 because you didn't wake up with a crippling migraine or you weren't limping that day, and that to you is like an optimal day, of course you're not going to realize that it was the vegetables or whatever. But a great example, one of my clients who's been very meat based for quite some time now, we were about 6 weeks when we started working together, had not touched meat in 10 years. Um, had some vegetables the other night, had a salad, and she sent me a picture the next day. And again, same body as me, 6 months pregnant, right? She said, "What happened?" I was like, "What'd you eat last night?" "Well, I had a steak and I had a sweet potato." I said, "What'd you have with it?" "Oh, I had a salad, but," and I said, "Well, it's the vegetables. It's your body reacting." So, I mean, I think oxalates are really specific to the individual. Some people are really reactive to them. Some people aren't. It's like histamines, right? Some people are super histamine adverse. Some people are fine. It probably depends on your genetic precursors. I would say age, I would say gender, I would say other health concerns that you may be facing. But I would across the board die on the hill that vegetables are not good for you. End of
Yep.
story. That's where I will stand on that.
I can say I absolutely don't miss them. And I fully agree with what you're saying. It's like people's baseline is not at a 10 for sure. It's probably at like a 3 or a 4. They just don't realize it because it's been so long, so they adapt to that. And as long as they're not pushed too far off that threshold, then they won't realize that you actually feel like crap.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, it's the old, like, if you don't make time for your wellness, you will have to make time for your illness, right? People
mhm.
think they're well until they're very not well. And then they all of a sudden realize, oh my God, looking back years and years, crap, I had this thing, I had that thing, I had this thing. I didn't realize. And it was all leading up to whatever
Yep.
the thing is.
The body's trying to give you signs. I actually had a client this morning. He brought it up that he saw in a clip some wellness influencer. He couldn't share it with me because he just forgot to at the time, but they were saying how if you don't get sick once a year, then you are not as healthy as you think you are, which he was trying to pick my brain for a reasoning for this. And I can't really say I would come up with a reason why that would be true. It's like if your body is not sick and you're not suppressing it with medications, you're not masking these symptoms with drugs that are meant to do that, then why would there be a for concern at all? It's like if you're getting a fever, which not a lot of people know this because they're um, bought into the whole Western medical system. It's like if you're getting a fever, this is your body's way of handling whatever toxin
Yeah.
or virus, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And by suppressing it, you're not actually allowing it to do its job. So what you're doing in that instance is you're probably making the problem worse because you didn't give the body the opportunity to take it through the entire course.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think if you are functioning optimally, your body's doing everything it's supposed to do. So if you look at LDL cholesterol, right? Everybody says LDL cholesterol, it's the bad cholesterol. No, LDL cholesterol does exactly what cholesterol is supposed to do. But when you have inflammation in the body and you have oxidative stress in the body, or you have oxidative LDL, then you start to have problems with plaquing. But people don't understand like correlation and causation are not the same thing. To say if you're not sick once a year, if you're sick once a year, you're not functioning properly. We don't look at animals in the wild and say, oh, they're supposed to get sick once a year. Look at that one wolf that's left behind because it's on its annual sickness.
Mhm.
It's silly. I think people get really morally tied to things and like ethically tied to things, and they forget that we are all part of an ecosystem. That an ecosystem is perfectly designed. The universe, the world, whatever you want to call it, like all of the little part and parcel pieces of everything happening, other than the cancer of humanity that just destroys everything in its path. But if we were all to return to wild, we all serve our purpose. We all serve a purpose in the food chain. Everything has a purpose. And humans are not superior to that. We are part of that. We are not, just because people want to morally be above it. That's not how it works. And when you morally exclude yourself from something that's naturally perfect, you start to cause all of this influx, like things that start to become disjointed. And to say that you're supposed to be sick means your body is not working the way your body is perfect. Your body wants to be well.
Mhm.
I think you said it the other day, but the human body wants to survive, right? If if it's in a state where you give it junk food every day, you see people in society, they haven't eaten a real piece of food in 2 years. They're still alive because the body is trying so hard to extrapolate those little pieces of nutrients that it can get from whatever you're feeding it. It's still trying to survive. The body does not want to be ill. You are causing it to be ill by what you're consuming or like you said in the beginning, the environment that you're exposing it to.
I find it fascinating, the whole big food, big pharma, the web of lies that has been spread throughout society. Because I have a friend that really dives deep into like minerals and supplementations and such, and he looks at the ingredients that they're putting into all these processed foods and such. And sure, there's people that say, oh, if you don't know, if you can't read it, if you can't pronounce it, then you probably shouldn't be eating it, which I tend to agree with. Like, just stick with single ingredient foods. But he's like, what they're doing here is they're providing you the bare minimum that you need to not die.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, it's loaded with all the other junk, the seed oils, loaded with refined sugars and stuff. So, you're going to feel like crap, but it's still going to be enough to nourish you, especially if it's like a kid. It's
Yep.
just enough, even if you haven't eaten real food in years or decades, that you're able to grow and you're able to survive, not thrive.
Not
But
thrive.
the body is incredibly strong. That should be a testament to it. It's like you can eat crap for 90 years. You can be on medications for 90, not 90 years, but maybe.
Maybe.
And you're still alive. The body's still
Mm-hmm.
holding on for dear life.
Mm-hmm. But I think
Crazy.
we see that's I mean, I don't know about you, it's an argument I face a lot. Is a lot of people will say, the everything in moderation people. Well, I've been moderating and I'm 86 years old and I'm fine. And you think like if you're 86 years old, you weren't having Coca-Cola when you were 20. That didn't exist, right? Or you weren't
Mhm.
eating chips 5 days a week. Like the comparative norm, and I think somebody on social recently did it where they just talked about Coca-Cola in the beginning versus now, or like whatever product to now, and the complete difference in what they're putting in food now versus when a lot of foods were even created in the not so distant past. But yeah, I mean, can the body survive? Yeah, it can. But we also see cancers, we see diabetes, we see like obesity. Look around. You cannot look at this society and say this is a society of people thriving. Look at humanity, it's doing great. We might be intellectually sometimes in some in some parts of society might be intellectually superior, or we may have grown consciousness beyond other animals, but we took that consciousness and all we did was instead of using it to really thrive, we went, oh, let's just artificially shove things into ourselves to make us feel better because to be human is to suffer. And people don't like it.
Yeah.
People don't like it.
I essentially equate it to everyone being drugged. So the
Mm-hmm.
FDA, you have the Food and Drug Administration. I call it the Food with Drugs Administration because it's so addictive and it gets people into these states. I don't
Yeah.
know if you've seen the movie Idiocracy. I don't really watch
Yeah.
too many movies, but seeing that, how people say The Matrix is a documentary, I look at the movie Idiocracy and I'm like, we're not really far off. People watering their plants and stuff. Granted, you probably shouldn't eat them anyway, but with Gatorade and they can't figure out why things aren't working
Yeah.
properly. Well, you
Yeah.
probably shouldn't drink neon stuff. That'd be a start.
Yeah, if it's a neon color, it's probably not meant to be consumed, right? I think we all
Mhm.
saw, women at least, like I remember growing up, eat off of a blue plate because your brain naturally doesn't want to consume the color blue. And so they would say to women, "Oh, you'll eat smaller portions if you eat off of a blue plate because your brain doesn't see the color blue as something that's appetizing." So, I mean, you start to look thinking, okay, well, why are we drinking blue Gatorade and blue Red Bull and blue like these things are literally I don't think oftentimes people pour the cans out to see the color of what is inside. But like look at Mountain Dew. It's literally
Mhm.
neon yellow. It's like
Mhm.
Simpsons yellow and people are just chugging it back. And they go,
Yep.
"Well, there's water in it. It's fine." And yeah, your body will take whatever water it can get. But I know people who have not drank a glass of water. I mean, legitimately drank a glass of water in days, weeks. Like they might drink 1 cup of water a week. Shocking.
Yep.
Shocking.
Same. Same, same.
Yeah, shocking.
So
Like no wonder your
I
baseline's 3.
I feel like women are definitely kind of targeted more. I've never heard about the blue plate thing, but
Hmm.
definitely with magazines and tabloids and all these trends that come out, your favorite celebrity. I've heard you say on a different podcast that you believe women will take longer than men transitioning into carnivore. Would you be able to explain why that's the case?
Yeah, it's basically hormonal cycles, right? So women have a 28-day hormonal cycle, men have a 24-hour one. That's really minimizing the what it is, but I think a lot it's just basically hormonal adaptation. It takes us significantly longer. In the same sense in the beginning as we were talking about carb cycling for women and fasting for women. I am personally, no, don't come at me, internet. I'm a personal proponent of intermittent fasting. It's helped me. Something I did not mention I was suffering from was hypoglycemia, but I also had very severe hypoglycemia
Mm.
going into everything as well. Um, so it really helped me regulate my insulin. But I would say past a 48 hour, maybe a 72. I wouldn't personally recommend it for most women. But men can do great. I think men do great on long fasts. I think men do great on dry fasts. Again, women are not tiny men, right? We have completely different bodies that work in completely different ways. And hormonal regulation for us is a different thing with like thyroid and insulin and everything is all so interrelated that I think it just takes women a lot longer. We also, like I said before, we need a higher fat ratio generally. Somebody told me once, butter your adrenals, and it was a useful piece of information I heard. But yeah, I think it's mostly hormonal based why women take longer to adapt. We're meant to carry a baby, so our body doesn't adapt exactly the same way.
How long would you say that it would take then?
About 90 days. I would want most women to give it a try, yeah. I mean, if I had a client who was just like completely adverse to that, then fine, we would start with 30 and we'd go, how do you feel after 30 days? And maybe we can push to 60 and maybe we won't. Maybe we go back to animal based and that's okay too. But if I had an ideal situation, I would have all women start at 90 days for sure. Although to be fair, I'd probably push men on 60. Just I think men are often so unhealthy now. Like if we have a gentleman like yourself coming in from keto and a generally healthy standpoint, you're going to adapt a lot faster than somebody coming off of a SAD diet. But I think with men, a lot of men are like drinking excessively. You see a lot of smoking. You see a lot of like bad dieting in men and women, but men will adapt faster. But I would still I would try and ease a male client onto 60 for sure and a female onto 90.
So you were a bartender back in the day too. Do you drink now while you're on carnivore? Or if not, how has carnivore kind of reshaped your relationship with food overall?
I quit drinking way before I went carnivore. I actually learned as part of my hypoglycemia, I was having very severe hypoglycemic incidences to the point that I crashed my car. while I was driving. I had a sugar drop and I blacked out and crashed my car. Um, a lot of these incidences were replicating as intoxication. So if you didn't know me, you would think I was intoxicated. I was slurring, my eyes were red. I couldn't move my body properly. My breath was sweet, as we now know as ketones, but I didn't know at the time. And it turns out that my pancreas can't process alcohol properly. So I actually quit drinking I think it's been 4 5 years since I don't even remember, but I quit drinking a long time ago. So that part was not hard for me. I recognize it is hard for people who do drink when they transition into carnivore. Um, my relationship with food is incredible. As a hypoglycemic and a thyroid person, I lived by the lie that I needed to eat every 2 hours to sustain myself. And it had to be, again, these carby meals were obviously spiking and dropping my insulin. And so I was just re-hungering myself. But I didn't understand any of that at the time. So I went from like, for a period of my life, a long car road would have been problematic. I wouldn't have been able to drive without snacks, stopping to eat. I would have had to have my whole bag of treats that I could eat on the road because I would start to shake, my blood sugar would drop, I would get really moody, I'd get a headache, I'd get super tired. Now I eat twice a day, sometimes once a day. I really intuitively eat. I don't always recommend that for people to start. I think we don't have good intuition about food in the beginning, but 6 7 months into carnivore, your body pretty much tells you when it is and isn't hungry. So I eat until I am full. I stop eating when I'm full. I eat again when I'm hungry. I generally finish eating around 8 p.m., maybe 9 p.m. at night. I don't eat again until 2, sometimes 3 the next day. Um, so that food freedom has been incredible. I can fast with no problem. So if I end up going to an event and there's no food I can eat there, I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to, or eat something that it's not on brand for me. Um, I am just able to do all kinds of things. I work out fasted every morning, and I know people in the space will say women shouldn't be working out fasted. It works for me, so I do it. I take each client as they come, but um, I definitely think that the relationship with food and I know food freedom is now an overused term in our space, but it is truly freeing to not have to worry about when you're getting your next meal or be panicked about what your next meal is going to be or be panicked about how you're going to attend social events. And to me, that's like, it's interesting because I think a lot of people worry about social events on carnivore and how am I going to fit in and what am I going to eat? And for me, it's like, I don't care. It's great. I don't have to worry about it. If I'm going to go and oh, you're going to eat a steak and it's going to be $90 or you don't have to eat, I don't care if I eat. It's fine. Like, it's totally okay for me. I can go long periods of time. My body is functioning optimally. And that is something I didn't think I would ever feel in my life. And it is like truly exceptional in ways I don't even think you could explain to somebody unless they were experiencing it. But to not have to wake up and immediately eat breakfast or panic as you're about to head out the door to go to your work and with your coffee and your donut and your whatever in your hand. I lived like that for so long, and not living like that is just magnificent.
I'm really interested that you were hypoglycemic even when you were like eating the carbohydrates. I'm really trying to piece that together in my brain because that wouldn't make too much
I
sense.
am I'm a special unicorn, I will tell you. My health concerns are I mean, I'm also completely statistically not the person that would have diverticulitis at all, right? It's usually males, it's usually older, it's usually people that have obesity. Like across the map, none of my hypothyroid symptoms made sense. My hypoglycemia did not make sense. My diverticulitis did not make sense.
Hmm.
Most of my health concerns are medical anomalies, as the doctors like to, but yet here I am, right? I think that the hypoglycemia, again, was just all part of the same reason I was having the thyroid problems and everything else. All of my hormones were just dysregulated. And I think that dysregulation was actually what caused the hypoglycemia. I wouldn't say I was a typical hypoglycemic. I think it was induced by
Hmm.
hormonal imbalance.
And what is diverticulitis exactly?
So diverticulitis, essentially, we all have these pockets in our intestines called diverticuli. Diverticulitis is when those pockets become infected and inflamed. So it generally, not always, generally happens in what's called the sigmoid region of the colon. So sort of as your intestine goes down, it kind of does this hook like this, and then it goes down to your colon. And it's often in this sort of hook area because it is tightly compact in our bodies, and especially my body is quite small framed. And so this little area here got all these pockets that were super, super, super infected. And so essentially it's like your colon stops working properly. It doesn't, peristalsis doesn't work properly anymore. Everything just is hurting. I had such severe inflammation. It felt like I had, they said it was scar tissue, but it felt like I had a lump about like this by that inside my body that would
Mm.
not go away, that I was told would never go away, but did go away with carnivore, from the severe amount of scarring that happened due to the infection that was present for a year without any respite. So
So
just
carnivore,
really
it
gross
literally healed
infection.
your gut.
Literally healed my gut. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I can still get, I mean, and people fight me all the time. Is it cured or am I symptom free? For me, it's one and the same. I get a lot of people who battle me online and will say, well, you're not cured. Well, are you a doctor? Are you going to say someone's cured because they followed your meal plan? I don't live with problems. So to me, that's healing. If I get a high stress incident, if I were to eat a bunch of dairy, anything like that, then I can get some pain there again. But I know how to mitigate it now. Like if I just lean right in, or if I go on a good fast, it takes care of itself. So carnivore is certainly keeping it at bay. Like I don't require medication, I don't require surgery, and the lump and the pain is 99% gone.
Have you heard of carnivore for other digestive issues like IBS or Crohn's?
Oh yeah, for sure. Quite a few people in my space have used it pretty extensively for that. It wasn't something I personally battled with, shockingly, outside of all the other things I had. But yeah, I think carnivore is phenomenal for gut health across the board. Leaky gut, Crohn's, IBS, IBD. My dog has IBD. I use carnivore
Mm.
for him to treat that. He was uh, vomiting and bloody diarrhea for 2 years, despite all of the medications and blah, 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 blah. Transitioning him to carnivore has also balanced his gut health. He has not vomited in a year being on this diet as well. So, in people and in animals, it heals gut health.
I know you've dabbled with some raw food yourself because I've seen your post. So I want to get into that next, what the purpose of that is for you. But have you read Pottinger's Cats? Have you given, is your dog eating raw carnivore or is it cooked?
He's not, he eats cooked, and that's only due to some food allergies that he has. So he can't do red meat. He can't do ruminants at all.
Mm.
So we have an interesting time trying to make sure he gets enough fat in his diet. So he eats like super fatty chicken, duck, turkey, eggs, a lot of fish oil, things like that. He eats fish too. Um, but yeah, it's been a hard one with him for that. And the raw meat, no. If I ever have a pet again, they will be a raw carnivore for sure. It is hands down. I did work in veterinary medicine for almost 10 years, so I'm fairly well apprised of the industry. I've had an eclectic career. We won't get into that, but raw meat, I've been a tartar fan my whole life, forever. So the good old tartar with the raw egg and mix it in. Love it. Would I eat it right now? Yep, no problem. Do I prefer raw meat? Nope. I like my meat cooked. Um, I tend to choke if I eat my meat too raw. So that's a bit of a thing. I don't seem to swallow raw meat properly. But if you challenge me to eat some raw meat, I'd eat a raw steak, no problem.
I've had a few of the primal diet people in the community where they like live by raw meat. I
Yeah.
haven't fully bought into myself. That's been over a year now since I've kind of dabbled with that lifestyle. I can eat it. Just don't know if it's a preference for myself at the moment. I understand the reasoning why they're doing it,
Mhm.
and enzymes being cooked, heated may destroy them, similar to like pasteurization.
Yeah.
I
I
liked
do
that you
boil a
brought
lot
up.
of my meat. I do like rather than
Oh, you
searing it,
boil.
I make like a lot of stews, like roasts, like in
Mm.
slow cooking juices, to avoid that. I know that is a bit of a thing in the community is like searing of meat. So
Hmm. And do you like drink the juices afterwards? Do you save them for anything?
I make like a broth and I add it to the meat. So I'll often eat like a bowl with like half a roast and then all the juice in it.
Hmm.
It's great.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. I've not tried that myself yet. I may need to look into that next.
I give it a try. I'll give you a recipe.
Cool. I like that you brought up the social component, how if people want to go out and there's nothing on the menu, you don't need to fear eating. This is one of my personal hacks that I like to tell other people. It's like you don't need to eat all the time, especially if it's like a birthday party, they're gonna have cupcakes and stuff. I don't let my kid have the cupcakes at the parties. And if we know that there's an event coming up and there's likely not going to be anything for us to eat there, we just eat before.
Yeah.
What I've found carnivore does for me is it simplifies everything. I do OMAD 1 meal a day, maybe 2 meals, or I'll do like a little bit of an extended window, but I'm fasting generally for the most part. Definitely helps me. And like you said, I'm just not hungry all the time. Like that thought of what am I going to eat for breakfast, lunch, dinner, having to structure all these meal plans, it's kind of out the window because I actually feel satiated. And oftentimes I'm not even eating the entire meal that I cooked to myself. It's like my body, my hunger hormones, leptin and ghrelin, they are on point now where it's not even a question if I am hungry, my body will tell me. I don't need to
Yep.
guess. And I don't
Yep.
need to just put something in my gullet just to say that I ate.
And insulin's not telling you you're hungry. Like, it's your body actually, okay, no, now I require nutrients.
Mhm.
You eat and then you're satiated again.
So how was it for you adjusting at first with any of these dietary changes in your social groups?
Social groups. As I've said, I'm a bit of a force to be reckoned with as a human being. So if you know me, you're probably not gonna try to challenge me on anything anyways. Um, I'm always doing something obscure. It's just who I am. So I think like all my friends are Barbie girls and I'm like a heavy metal queen. So it's like I might have blonde hair, but I'm also heavily tattooed. Um, Definitely people were weird about it. My family was super cool. My family had no problem at all. My partner's Hispanic and his parents were like devastated that I wouldn't eat dessert with them. But they adapted. It was fine. I think a lot people fear not blending in or they fear judgment. And for me, it's like if you're gonna love me and be part of my life, you're gonna have to just accept that like if you don't agree, that's cool. I don't care. That's if you think I'm hurting myself, you should tell me. Fortunately, nobody went to that extreme, but um I'm not a big like I worked in restaurants for so many years, I tend to avoid that space. So it's not like I was a big restaurant person or anything like that. But I always say like I think an honest conversation goes the distance, right? So if you just sit people down and you say, "Listen, I'm doing this thing. You may not agree with it, but I'm making this choice for me." And if you have concerns, I think the animal documentary is probably one of the strongest pieces of content that we have right now. I'm super thankful. Vinny's been on the show a few times, and I am just so thankful that this has been created because I think previously you would have to sit down and show your family like Dr. Shafee trying to explain plants are trying to kill you or whatever. You can show them the documentary and start to explain like, whether or not you agree, this isn't harmful to me. I am not making it, I'm not picking up a drug addiction. Like this is a
Mhm.
choice I've made. Um, and I think I probably battled more with people being weird when I quit drinking than when I
Yeah.
quit eating a sad diet. People were definitely used to me being like the party friend. And so when I wasn't the party friend anymore, that was a really hard reflection for them. A lot of people saw negative aspects of themselves in my choice to not live like that. I lost a lot of friends, but that's people come and go from your life. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I say like, educate people. Don't try to skirt around it. If you feel like people are going to feel weird, just tell them. Like, I went to a bachelorette party, I don't know, 3, 4 weeks ago, and I only knew the bride. and one other person. I didn't know anybody else. They're all the bride's friends. And these people are 10 years my juniors. And I thought they're going to think I'm this crazy old lady showing up with like my bag of steak. Like, who is this girl, right? Like, I don't drink. I don't party. I was just show up and drink my water. And like, they showed up with my own lunch pail and my steak. And it was, you know what? People were not only not weird about it, I had an amazing opportunity to talk to two women who came up to me and were like, "Hey, can I ask, like, why do you eat like that?" And so I started explaining it, and I actually ended up working with them like later because both of them were struggling. One was struggling with weight, and one was struggling with hormones after a bad PTSD incident. And so it was like an opportunity to help other people, not even just educate, but help other people. So I think it's your mindset, right? If you go into
Yeah.
something thinking people are going to think I'm weird, well, yeah, people are going to think you're weird. But if you go into something saying, yeah, I've confidently made a choice for my own health, deal with it. And if you have questions, I'll answer them. But if you don't, then that's cool. I'm here. You want me to be at this event? I'm at the event. Do you care if I showed up with steak or a salad? Does it matter? Um, then, I think just don't get in your head about things. Be confident
Yeah.
in choosing you. Choose your own health, right? It's nobody else is living in your body. You have to live in your body.
Hmm. I think bringing a bag of steak to a wedding is definitely an icebreaker. That's a conversation starter. And just like you said, like the anxiety, the thoughts that we can make up in our head if someone's going to embark on this journey and perhaps you don't have the support from your friends or at the family gatherings, you're worried that people are going to be looking at your plate and wondering why you're not eating that. Maybe grandma, she may mention something
Grandma's probably going
once
to
or
mention something,
twice,
but
but
grandma's going to mention something about you not having kids or you not being
yeah,
married, or you're like, right?
yeah.
Grandma's going to mention something anyway.
But for the most part, once they start eating, no one really cares what's on your plate. They're more concerned with what's on their plate. So, but now you found your own community. So, could you tell me a little bit about the carnivore community, what you guys have going on there, and how people would be able to work with you as a coach?
Yeah. So the Carnivore community is a group that I'm part of. I've been fortunate enough to join. We're about 30 people international. So we're just dedicated to education. Some of us are coaches, some aren't, but really education, support, and awareness of animal-based living. I could say also ancestral living, since we kind of cover more than just nutrition. But we do podcasts once a week, or I guess they're lives on Instagram right now. So it's at the_carnivore_community. And if anybody's interested in being on one of the lives, they can hit me up. I'm an admin in the group there. We love to have people. We just had yourself on last weekend. So it's a really great space. We try to support people who are new to the lifestyle. So as we were saying, some folks don't have someone to lean on, or they're new in social media and they've got a great story, whatever it is. We work with some of the really big names. We had Dr. Shafee a few weeks ago. We had Jordinary Life on yesterday. But we also work with people who have 50 followers that need that support and that love. So for us, it's a lot of just awareness and education and support and reaching out to others, making sure that people in the space are understanding if they have health challenges or something that they're not sure how to navigate, that there's a group of people there who are willing to love and support and help them through it. There's some really brilliant minds in that group. There's some incredible coaches who have been doing this for a long period of time. Me personally, as a coach, you can just reach me at Lady of the Steak on Instagram if that's a space somebody wants to engage with. But yeah, the carnivore community, I definitely recommend follow it on Instagram, check it out. If you want to be on a live, hit me up. If you want to just watch a live, they happen once a week, and we would love for anybody to participate. Everybody's welcome to feel loved in that space by us.
Yeah, it's a cool little community. I definitely appreciate you inviting me on there to just learn and see
Yeah, it
what
was great.
everyone else is going through because everyone has a story. So
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate you sharing your story with everyone. Hopefully it can land and resonate and maybe inspire some people to look at the things that they're putting in their body a little bit differently. And your health, I mean, your gut is essentially what determines your health. So I, again, really appreciate you for inviting me. I appreciate you for coming on here. And I
Yeah.
look forward to seeing what you guys are going to do in the future.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me here as well. So it was super great chatting with you today.